Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Woman of Purpose. I'm glad you joined us, and this is the episode that we wrap up the topic of codependency. So today we're going to tell you how to recover.
Amen.
How to bring recovery to this lifestyle of being codependent and to being understanding who you are and living, empowering you to live life according to who you are. So, all right, Miss Wendy, this has been fun.
I know, and this is my favorite part. I
This
love
is
talking
our
about the
favorite
recovery
part. Yeah,
parts.
this is the most amazing part because it gives
Right.
people hope.
It does, yeah.
It gives you hope that there is.
And recovery from codependency is hard in some ways and easy in other ways. So people always think change is hard.
Yeah.
But when you want to move from one point in your life or to a different point, you have to change.
Yeah.
So stop trying to avoid the need to change and do the work to change,
Right.
because you have to change
Right.
if you want anything to be better or different in your life. So
Right.
it's going to mean change.
Change is hard, but change is necessary
Right.
to become who you want to become and who you need to become.
The first step of change is always awareness. That's just why we always spend so much time
Yep.
talking about awareness
Yep.
and how it manifests in your life. So the number one way to change being codependent is to catch yourself being codependent.
Okay.
Is to start thinking about your behaviors and how you're interacting in your relationships and catching yourself in any of those categories of codependent behavior and choosing a healthier behavior. And at first, it's going to feel really weird and
Yeah.
awkward and uncomfortable, but experience builds confidence.
Okay.
So if you can push yourself to start making those even just small changes, like saying no when you want to say no,
Yeah.
and having some confidence, building that confidence that my world did not crumble down and fall to pieces when I said no to someone.
Yeah. Yeah,
Then you're going to
that's
start
going
having
to
some confidence in that.
Right. That's going to be a huge thing when you see that, nobody's life fell apart. It's going to really help go, oh, ding 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 ding.
Right.
I can say no and it's okay.
You will sometimes have relationships impacted. You may have some relationships that you choose to end or that they choose to end with you, because the people who terminate relationships with you where they benefited from you being codependent and not having any boundaries and saying yes all the time,
Yeah.
they're then going to want to not be in a relationship with you.
Right. But when you realize that relationship really didn't benefit you at all, losing that relationship might be hard for a minute, but you're going to realize that it's actually healthier for you to not be in that relationship.
Right.
And when you see yourself as being okay without that relationship and healthy enough to say, you know what, if that relationship was all about enabling them, then it's easier to be able to lose that relationship and move on. So
Recovery from a lot of things in our life is a recovery of our own self-respect. And from the behaviors that we choose in our life, we either affirm our self-respect or choose to say, I'm letting go of my self-respect by the behaviors that we expect from other people and the way we allow other people to treat us.
right.
It's
Yeah.
either saying, I'm affirming my own self-respect. So sometimes it's helpful to talk about yourself in the third person. Like, why would I let anybody treat Wendy like that? Why would I allow Wendy to experience that same thing in a relationship with somebody? Because it makes us start thinking like, I don't even talk to myself like I talk to other people. I'm way nicer to other people than I am to myself.
Yeah.
I'm more aware of other people's feelings and needs, and I am even aware of my own feelings and needs. So you have to start thinking about yourself differently and saying that what I need in a relationship is valid, and I don't need anybody else to tell me it's valid for it to be valid for me.
Yeah.
I can't get so lost in the opinions of other people that I really truly lose who I even am or what I'm trying to accomplish in my own life, because we are spirits having a human experience and we get one shot at this.
Yeah.
And you can create joy in your life
Yeah.
by your own
Yeah.
healing, even if no one else heals.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a big one that says, I am always wary of what I call declarative conversations, where you've had an epiphany about a relationship that you have with somebody. And what you want to do is you want to sit down with them and say, hey, this thing that you're doing, this is how it's affecting me. And this is what I'm choosing to do. And I'm going to change my behavior based on wanting some healthier boundaries or something like that. We want to sit down and have those declarative conversations with people. Sometimes it's appropriate, but oftentimes we're only doing it because we want that person to validate what we're choosing to do.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to tell me that it's okay if I choose to do that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they don't do that.
Right.
Because you acting in a healthier way changes the dynamics, and it no longer is all about them and what they want and what they need.
Right.
So I always encourage people to just simply choose the healthier behavior, start acting in that healthier behavior. And if the person is curious and catches it, they'll ask you why you're doing that.
Yep.
But they may never catch it.
Yep.
They may never care enough to ask
Yeah.
you why you're doing that.
Right.
But how we allow other people to treat us and be in relationships with us either affirms for us our own feelings of self-respect, or it denies to us that I have any self-respect. If I let you treat me a certain way, I'm saying, yeah, I don't have any reason to be respected. I don't respect myself enough to say, here's a boundary and I need you to not cross it.
Yeah. Yeah, as you were talking, I came to this, the scripture came to my mind. It says to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. So all of this really is encapsulated in that, because I cannot love unless I love myself. I
Right.
can't love others well unless I love myself well. And loving yourself well is being aware of this and then taking this and applying it to my life, saying, I am going to make healthier decisions and healthier, I'm going to become healthy so that I can have healthier relationships.
Right.
And so if people in my life decide to not be a part of my life, then because I'm healthy, I'm going to just chalk that up, saying that that relationship is not healthy for me.
Right.
And be okay with that. So I think that this is so good, because the only way to have healthy relationships, and it's even in the Bible, it says that I have to love myself. And understanding, being aware of it, and then having the power to change it.
We have a relationship with ourselves.
Yes.
If you've been in one session with me ever, you've heard this. You have a relationship with yourself. You have a way you talk to yourself. You have a way you take care of yourself. You have a way you esteem yourself, how you make yourself important. You have a relationship with yourself. And no one else is ever going to care about your happiness as much as you should.
Yeah.
You need to have a good, loving relationship
Yeah.
with yourself. Like,
Yeah.
I am by far not perfect.
Yeah.
But even my flaws, I accept them and I see them and I say, okay, that's part of who I am. I'm either changing it or I'm accepting it. There's some things about me that no matter how much I've tried to change them, it just doesn't change. So I try to mitigate the negative impact that stuff has in my life. But I have a really good, healthy relationship with myself now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty confident in who I am.
Yeah.
Even if I know I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I've reached this point of perfection to be confident in myself.
But it took work.
Oh, a lot of work.
It took the awareness, like you said, you were in your 30s before there was like an awareness of like, hey, wait a minute, what's happening here? And then you had to put the work behind it and the grid behind it. And that's what we have to do. And that's just like, it's like you guys are sitting in Wendy's office and you're hearing all of these things. And then when we end this podcast, when we end it, now it's going to be up to you what you're going to do with it. You can just say, hey, those were great words. Yeah, that was me. Yeah, that was so good. But if you do nothing to change, then your life is going to continue the same cycle. So in other words, this podcast can either be encouraging to you, where you're like, woohoo, that was really good, or it can empower you. And empowering takes it off of me, and Wendy, which that would just be encouraging you. We're not here to encourage, we're here to empower you. And empower means that it's your responsibility now on what you're going to do with what you just heard. And when you take that and you apply it to your life and you start doing the hard work and you start changing it and saying, not today, this is going to be different, your life will be completely different.
Absolutely.
You're going to see, when you look in the mirror, you're going to see yourself so different. You're going to actually see somebody that you love and want to be with. Because if you can't be with you, nobody else is going to want to be with you. You take you everywhere you go.
Absolutely.
And so you got to love yourself, and you've got to love yourself enough to do the hard work and say, okay, I'm going to change my behavior and I'm not going to be codependent.
Right. And a lot of people shy from change.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look in the camera and say this one, because through change, you should become confident. Okay. I want you to think about how many hard things you've handled in your life. Because if you are codependent, you have struggled and handled some really hard things. The more hard things we handle, the more confident we should become in our ability to handle hard things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Experience builds confidence. That is true. So if you have been through hard things, you should be confident and pretty fearless about the future that you will figure it out.
Yeah.
You have to learn to trust your own judgment and your own abilities to figure things out.
Yeah.
And if you can't figure it out, that you're going to find a resource that's going to help you figure it out, like a podcast or a really good therapist or some wise friends or something. But don't shy away from
Yeah.
change because you're scared.
Yeah.
You have handled so many hard things. It should be like, oh, this is just one more hard thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure it out. I'm adaptable enough. I'm smart enough to adjust my life into something that's going to bring me freedom.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of it.
Yeah.
Have the confidence. Say, yep, I have people who have been victimized and traumatized. They can sometimes back into what I call this little turtle shell to say, I don't want to experience any more of that. So I'm going to just sit in this because I don't want to experience anything more. And I tell people all the time that enter therapy with me, it's like 6 months from now of dedicated effort to that change and that thing in your life. And I guarantee you 6 months from now, if you put in that much effort, it's going to change.
Yeah.
It could have taken you 40 years to develop that maladaptive coping style.
Yeah.
But if you give it really good,
Yeah.
6 months, it's going to change.
Yeah.
And when I have people then at the end, when I start reminding them of how much they've changed and how they've
Yeah.
implemented these things and the freedom that they've had, and I'll go back in my notes and I'll say, this is the thing you said to me just 4 months ago and you don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Be
It's
fearless
powerful. Yeah. It's
in
powerful.
your ability to trust your
Yeah.
own judgment and say, I am capable of change in my life.
Yeah.
If you are capable of surviving this world, you are capable of changing it.
Yeah. Because when we really think about it, we were choosing that behavior. You were choosing the behavior before you knew it was codependent, maybe. You were choosing that behavior so you can choose another behavior. It's really, there's another scripture that comes to my mind, and it says, I put before you today life or death, choose life. And so today you're giving the opportunity, you're giving a choice. You're either going to continue on in this life of codependency, or you're going to choose to go down this path and choose to choose healthier behavior. And it really is a choice. And because you chose this, you have the power to choose the other. And so do it fearlessly.
Right. And maybe the place to start, if it seems daunting and huge to change your relationships with other people, is to just start focusing on changing the relationship with yourself.
Yes.
How do you talk to yourself?
Yeah.
Stop being so critical of yourself. Be your own best cheerleader.
Yeah.
I love being my client's
Yeah.
cheerleader. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Be your own best cheerleader.
Yeah.
So start taking care of yourself. Start talking to yourself like you would talk to a friend. Because we are so much nicer to other people than we are to ourselves
very
most
true.
of the time.
Yeah.
So even if you're saying, oh, it's just really hard to start change the dynamics in the relationship with my husband or my mom, start changing the dynamics in the relationship with you. Because the more you like yourself and the more self-respect you gain for yourself, the less you will tolerate other people disrespecting you
Yeah.
and being unkind to you.
Yeah.
Because you're going to say, don't mess with my
Right.
peace, right?
Yeah.
Learn to validate your experiences. Learn to trust your own judgment, which means you have to think about yourself and how you think and how you process. Detachment is so powerful, people. To detach yourself from the toxic behavior of other people, not in an unkind way,
Right.
but just in a way that you don't feed any energy into it. That you're not
That's-
a part of their faulty
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
You're just detached from it.
Yeah. That's good. I love that what you just said. It's the energy, detaching yourself and not allowing that energy to be, because it sucks the energy out of you, not them.
Right.
It sucks the energy out of me.
Right.
So detaching from a toxic
Right.
relationship is super important.
Sorry. So a big key is that you have to realize that you can only control yourself. We've talked a little bit about controlling. You can't control outcomes. You have points of
Yeah.
impact, but you don't have any control over the outcomes. But you really need to start recognizing, when am I trying to take control of something that I'm really not in control of? And for a lot of people, that clue is anxiety. I think we get anxious when we are trying to control something we're really not in control of. At some level, we recognize I'm not in control of that.
That's a good point.
And there's a difference between like caring about somebody and caretaking.
Okay.
You know, caring is empathizing with somebody, and I feel what you're going through, and I'm listening to you. And you might give that person some advice or some different things to think about or some tools, but you're not trying to take control of their change. Like, I don't try to take control of my client's change.
Yeah.
That change is on them. And
Yeah.
that happens when they leave my office and they start saying, I'm going to try to do something different. You know, but sometimes when we're caretaking and we're trying to take control of somebody's process, we're actually trying to have them not have any natural consequences for their own choices. But if we're always insulating people from the natural consequences of their own choices, there's probably not going to be any change on their end.
Yeah.
Because we are the fix for their bad behavior.
Right.
Or their bad choices. So, you know, sometimes I like to say it's like, sometimes our helping is not helpful.
Yeah.
When you have a child that can't ever seem to budget and have enough money, but you always give them money, well, then you are the answer to their problematic spending problems.
Right.
Like, you are the answer.
Right.
So why would they change?
Right.
That system works for them.
Right.
So you have to catch yourself and choose a healthier behavior.
Yeah.
Choose to say, no, I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work for me.
Right.
And then that person might change.
Right. 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 How is somebody going to change something if they don't have to, if they're not given the opportunity? And enabling somebody actually steals the opportunity for them to actually be able to grow and do things differently.
Right.
And actually become a healthy adult.
And sometimes when people are codependent, they don't even like to bring up things in relationships, right?
Yeah.
So I always think that relationships are like a garden, and weeds grow up in a garden. Every once in a while, you got to pull some of the weeds out to let the good stuff grow. But that means we have to go to people and say, that doesn't work for me, or this does work for me, or I really enjoy this, but I don't really enjoy that. And ask people to change, which is, people who struggle with codependency don't even believe they have the right to ask somebody to change.
Yeah.
They just think that they will continue to change so that that person is happier. So you really need to catch yourself saying, am I trying to control something that I'm really not in control of?
Yeah.
The other system that I think really works great is something called reparenting yourself, where you really have to start thinking about yourself like you would think about your children.
Yeah.
Would I allow somebody to treat my child that way? Would I want my child to make this same choice? Because if you weren't parented well, you've got a wonky idea of what that should look like.
Yeah.
But if you really start reparenting yourself and saying, would I want my friend to accept this? Because we're often nicer to other people than we are to ourselves.
Definitely.
So sometimes you actually have to start thinking about it that way. Like, would I want my friend to accept that? Would I tell my friend to be in this relationship? Would I tell my child to be in this relationship? If it's a no for them, it should be a no for you.
me. Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. Just like you were saying earlier, is that we have a relationship with ourselves. I think we need to really think about that. We have a relationship with ourselves, and that relationship is up to us. And in order for me to have a good relationship outside, I have to have a good relationship with myself. And these things are so important because I have to recognize that my behavior if I'm codependent, my behavior now is not working.
Right.
It's not working for me.
Right.
Not even about relationships. It's not working for me. And you may lose some relationships. We talked about that earlier. You might lose some relationships. But most importantly, you're going to gain a relationship with yourself. And you're going to become healthy. You're going to be able to think differently. You're going to see yourself differently. You're going to be able to thrive in your life and in your world and in your family more than you ever have before. And so it's so important that you talked earlier about confronting. Codependent people have a hard time confronting. They don't like confrontation. I think the person they need to confront more than anybody is themselves. Is sit down and just say, okay, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? What am I going to do different?
Right.
How am I going to do this differently? And
Right.
applying some of the things, the tools that are being given today to just saying, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to take control of my life because obviously controlling others doesn't work.
Right.
And the only thing I can control is me and the way that I respond and the way that I behave.
Right. Because the one person that we drag through every moment of our life with us is ourselves.
Is us.
Is us. So we're interpreting everything in the world and allowing it to affect us.
Yeah, even when we try to escape things, and it's like you still take you with you. moving to a different place isn't going to change anything because you're there.
Right.
It's like, it's this thing of saying, okay, why, what, and now what am I going to do?
Right. Problems are not geographical. And if you
They're
don't
not
figure
geographical.
yourself out, and the reason why you continue to get in relationships that aren't great, you will just continue to get in relationships that aren't great. You might
Exactly.
end one, but you'll just find another one.
Exactly.
So you really have to take that time and say,
Yeah.
I want to be good with me. And
Yes.
in that, I can heal myself, and I'm no longer going to give my power to everybody else over my happiness, my peace, my joy. I am taking control of that. And I am going to do what I can do, and not in a selfish way. This is not about being selfish. No. This is about saying, I am important, and I need to remember and treat myself like I am important. What I'm experiencing, the joy that I can find for myself in my life, it is important for me to create that and to find those things so that I wake up in the morning with a life that I feel like is worth living. You have to create a life that feels good for you, but you are creating it. You are, by what you choose to either participate in or not participate in. Every day getting up and making a string of good decisions, and when you make a bad one, you just say, oops, course correct. I can't tell you how many times I've course corrected my own life. Oh, course correct, that didn't work. I need to do something else. There is no shame in course correction.
No.
Don't just stick something out because you're like, I'm just going to stick it out,
Right.
Just say to yourself, this
Redirect.
doesn't work. I'm going to do something different.
Yeah.
And you will change, and be fearless in that change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't be afraid of it.
We were all born for relationships. We're all designed to have relationships. And it's like we need to have that healthy relationship with ourselves first before we can have healthy relationships on the outside. You said that earlier, we'll say it again. It goes from the inside out, not the outside in. And I think so many people don't have healthy relationships because they don't have a healthy relationship with themselves. It's like when I understand that I am who I am, and like you said, it's not being selfish and it's not being, it's all about you, but to a degree, when we see that there's something in me that it's unhealthy. If I am allowing somebody else to control, somebody else's happiness is going to control my happiness, then I'm never going to have a healthy relationship, which is what I'm designed for. Especially women. It's like women, we're designed for relationships. We're designed to have a relationship, especially with other women. There's that, that thing where it's just like, it's like, man, I love hanging around people that build and encourage, and it's just kind of like you get that high almost being with your girlfriend over coffee. And if we're not healthy inside, if I'm not healthy with me, then it's going to be really hard to have that healthy with somebody else, because a healthy relationship is one into another.
Right.
There's a scripture again that Paul says in Romans. He says, I impart to you that you impart to me. I impart to you something, and not only that, but you impart to me something. So a healthy relationship is I give you and you give me. But when I'm always giving and thinking that giving is going to get me something, then there's a problem. Because I'm doing something to get something. But when I'm doing something because I'm healthy, and then you're giving back because you're healthy, then that is such a healthy relationship. And that's how we can grow together, grow in my identity, you're growing in your identity, and together we've got this amazing relationship. And then my family's healthy, and then, the way that I view life is just, and I think that takes care of that anxiety, takes care of the depression, because I'm not looking for it from somebody else and from someplace else, but I'm looking at it from a healthy perspective of who I am and how am I behaving and handling life. So it's a pretty
good stuff.
Good stuff is right. Yeah, good stuff. So I really believe that the things that we talked about are going to empower you guys to be able to do something different and change perspective. I think number one, when you talked about, is being aware. And then number two, she talked about catching yourself being codependent, and then being intentional on changing that behavior right away. And so I want to empower you guys to do something different. Recognize that you've got this issue and you can redirect. And I love that. It's like having your own internal GPS. You put that baby on and you might make a wrong turn, and you got the little GPS that says recalculating. And so It's good stuff. So thank you for joining us on this episode of Woman of Purpose. And there's some information on the bottom there that you can click on for resources. And yeah, thanks for joining. Have a good day.